Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the WASA Education or WASA Distance Education Network and ENG4C. This is actually the last class for ENG4C. Um, Matter of fact, for all of the courses being broadcast in WASA for the 2024-2025 school year, um, this is the last class. Well, time really went fast, didn't it? Okay, so maybe you still have some work to complete, whether it be in this class or this course or any of the other courses that we have. Uh, what you're going to need to do then is sign up for term number 3. That's the summer term. And then you can continue submitting your work to WASA then. So it's important that you do sign up for term 3. That is, if you hadn't already. But we do have markers for specific courses. So for ENG4C, there will be a marker for that. So if you've been have submitted any work at all, and there were some students earlier on in the year who did submit work, and what if you decided all of a sudden to start up again, right? You had dropped off for one reason or the other, or you wanted to start up again. Well, then you should sign up for that term 3. Okay, just let them know. Some students will be starting fresh for term 3, and that's fine. Any work that we're receiving right now, we're just going to pass on to the term 3 markers. Now, the term 3 markers aren't actually teaching, so you won't get the same kind of feedback that you've been getting all year from me or any of the other teachers because we'll all be gone on holidays. And the markers get hired just to mark. But the important thing here is the resource, the WASA YouTube resource that we have, where all our classes have been recorded. Well, I have a number of students who check out or who are working in IL, independent learning. They're not in a regular class here, one of our regular classes, and they check out the videos there just to solidify everything, um, get a different impression of what's written in the text. Right? It's always nice to have two different forms of media to clarify your thinking. Right? So that's the great thing about the videos that we have. They supplement exactly what's going on in the unit, and hopefully they can really detail the requirements uh, and what you need to do to complete the key questions and inevitably complete the course. So graduation is coming up next week as well. That's an exciting time for WASA. All these students who have been putting their nose to the grindstone for the year, and it's difficult for a lot of people. They have a lot of responsibilities. They have jobs, they have families, and then somehow they manage to find the time to be able to complete WASA courses, and which is just incredible. And they'll all be celebrated next Wednesday. That's the WASA graduation. So I won't be in the office that day. It's a busy day for us teachers as well, getting it all set up. But I will be in the office all next week. And so if you have any questions at all, if you're any way connected with any of the courses that I've been teaching, you have some answers before I leave on my holidays, then please contact me. And the same goes for all the other teachers there as well. So, um, yeah, so I, I just got a little sidetracked there, but important stuff to know. And so we'll be back on air in September. And we'll actually have some new courses for you, or I'll be teaching some new courses. The ENG4C, I think, will be going in term 1A, so that's our first term. And then I'm going to be teaching the college prep indigenous voices. I think it's NBV 3E. I might have that little acronym a bit off there, but it's the grade 11 compulsory English indigenous voices. I'm kind of excited about teaching that one. Um, and then I think I teach the four the 3E as well. So a slew of grade 11 courses, and bringing back one of my favorites that has been lay aside. Oh, I got tongue tied there. That has lain to the wayside for a few years. Media literacy. That's an open course, but it's a has a great 11 credit equivalency, so you can get your grade 11 with that. And it's a lot of fun, that course, media literacy. And hopefully we'll get some people to sign up for that. And then, yeah, so that's not till um, term 2B, right? So we got it sort of semi-hatched out, hashed out right now. But a few changes for the new year, which is good. Change is always good, right? So, what we're going to do today, we'll just quickly review Activity 6. That was a summary. And then uh, finish up with our final activity of Unit 4, Activity 7, Publishing. All right, so let's go and skim back to drafting the summary. Okay, so basically, we ask you to wait till you've done the other four sections of this final report before you do the summary, right? So you do the knowledge, inquiry, communication, and finally the application. I forgot that what it was for a second. Application sections, right? And it's all been explained to you. We've gone through that in every separate activity leading up to today. And then once you get those done, you could draft your summary. And your summary is going to briefly review what you're going to be discussing in those four categories, those four learning categories. So, a good thing to mention, though, in the summary to start off with is exactly that those four categories and how they are broken up, why they are important to your learning, and then here we'll just continue on here and show you some of the information once again. Um, let's see. are you? Excuse me. Okay, so let's go through the summary section again for review. Now that you've drafted the body of the report, you can write the summary. Remember, the summary is meant to be brief and give the reader a quick overview of all the information you plan on discussing in your report, right? So you're you're trying to not give too much information, but just touch on the different topics that you are going to discuss in each of those four key areas. Think about the summary you wrote for your research report and look for any feedback your teacher may have given you. Was your summary detailed enough? Was it too wordy? Was the information organized in the same way that it appears in the body of the report? All right? So, the organization, if we follow our template, is knowledge, right? Knowledge, inquiry, or thinking. I always say inquiry, but it's really thinking. What we call it thinking now. It used to be inquiry. um, Communication, of course, and then the application part, right? Where what are you going to do in the future? How are you going to apply all these skills in your job or when you go to college or get a job in the trades? How is this stuff going to be useful to you? All right. So anyway, so of course we're going to have to organize the material. We'll organize it just like the template, just to help yourself out with that, and don't get allow yourself to get too confused about it. And so you will talk about those different things, those different categories in the same organized way. So you'll talk about, first of all, you'll talk about knowledge, the knowledge that you gained, and um, how uh, uh, how different, or you don't want to get too specific, but you'll talk about the knowledge skills that you acquired from different assignments. Now, you don't have, as I said, we get more specific as we get right into the main body. So you might include the names of the assignments that you are going to be discussing. Uh, but as I said, not much detail do you need at this point. That's all going to come later. This is also when we are starting our revising and proofreading. All right, so first of all, we want to get the big ideas things worked out, right? We want to make sure that all our ideas fit nicely together. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned in a long time, it just struck me, is the use of transition words. Don't forget to use transition words because they help move the reader along. They give them a smooth sense to connecting your ideas. Nothing really jarring in there if you use transitions. So don't forget to use those, okay? And you just have to review back to chapter or unit number 1 to the different transitions that you can use in your writing. It's funny, sometimes when we learn things, and I'm using this course as an example, And we'll have assignments where, students will learn, in this case, transitions. They'll use them for a while and then they'll kind of drop off there. But there's a reason that we have put them in the course is that they should be used regularly. Ooh, ah, that was tongue tied. Hmm. So don't forget transitions. When you're doing your revision and proofreading, you might want to look for that, right? So you're proofreading. You want to organize all your ideas. Nice that they flow nicely. Everything's organized properly, right? Um, and then proofreading. That's the final stages, right? I don't know if I included proofreading when I was just talking about revising there, but proofreading or editing, I've always called it. This is where you start to go through the looking for spelling, right? And luckily, we have grammar check to um, find any big spelling mistakes. But then you have to remember double check for these homonyms, right? Uh, excuse me for a sec. Okay, so here's some examples of homonyms that you won't show up in your grammar check or your spelling check. Sorry, right? You got to make sure you got the right word, which means the right thing there. Pair and pair and right and see and see. Okay, sometimes when you're typing and your computer will automatically put words in there for you, and it might not be the word that you want. So be aware of that. You have to really refocus and when you read over and make sure that you have the right word in there. Okay, there's a lot of potential for misunderstanding if you throw the wrong hominin, the wrong word, the wrong meaning into your sentence. Okay, so unfortunately, some of you might not have grammar check. Then you have to be able to, go through word by word and have a dictionary there beside you. Or you may have a good friend who will help you do that edit, read it over for you, and underline all of the, um, let's say, spelling mistakes. That's nice to have, right? So maybe I know one of my students, just, she told me that she has a teacher, her son's teacher, who helps her, uh, read over his stuff. That's great. It doesn't take them that long to read it over, so a lot of times they're quite happy to do it. Um, and so the spelling, yeah, that's kind of the first thing we look at. And then we look for sentence structure. Okay, sentence structure is really important because, well, for many reasons, if we have, for instance, too many clauses or phrases out of order, then it can be a confusing read, and your reader will get lost and uncomfortable and start to sweat and uh, won't want to read anymore. So be aware of your sentence structure and word. Sorry, a lot of word processors have grammar check now built in with them. Grammarly is a great program, free program that can help you as well. If you can copy and paste, there's a number of great grammar programs out there that are free that you could just copy and paste your work right in there. Make sure you got it, all those sentences nice and uh, just that they work perfectly, right? Um, so, yeah, then you got that. Once you get the spelling and sentence structure done, then you're doing pretty good. And it's nice, though, to have a peer of some type helping you to read it over for you. Now, a lot of times, well, so for instance, for each of these assignments of the different categories, and then the summary, you are asked to send in and submit your work to your teacher for revision or review. Right? So your teacher will mark anything that doesn't look right. They'll help you, they'll become your editor. But I know if you're working by yourself in IL during the summer, um, that's probably not going to happen. I don't know, you know, not as to the same degree as what we can do here during the regular school year. So that's why we're doing the proofreading. Oh, we looked at there's the section on the summary, and then we're going to go to the publishing of activity 7 on page 39. Let's read through this together. What are the learning goals and how can you be successful at completing this activity, this key question? In the final activity, you will revise and proofread the summary section of the report and incorporate feedback to improve the quality of the report as a whole. This is on page 39. Once you've done this, compile the portfolio. Okay, it's just copy and paste it into each of the different sections into the template. Right, we'll show you the template in a bit. Compile your portfolio by including your final copy of your report along with selections of work from the course that you feel best demonstrates your growth as a learner, and then submit your portfolio to your teacher. By the end of this activity, you'll be able to revise and proofread a rough draft to create a good copy of a report, compile a portfolio that includes the report and selections of work. So, the success criteria. I know I'm successful when I can use feedback from my teacher to revise, edit, and proofread my report. Read through all the feedback gathered and follow up with my teacher if I don't understand any of the suggestions. I know I'm successful when I can determine how some changes may affect other parts of my report. This is always a thing that happens, right? When you start revising, oh, you change the whole picture, right? The whole composition. So you take something out. Do you need to put it somewhere else? What do you need to put in to replace it? Does it need to come from somewhere else? I know I'm successful when I can make a plan to revise and proofread my writing. I know I'm successful when I can self assess my work using the rubric as a guide, and we'll look at that in a second. I know I'm successful when I can prepare a final copy of my report and compile my portfolio. It's now time to assemble the final version of your report and portfolio. It's pretty impressive when you compile the entire document and look at your reflections on everything you've learned throughout this course. Remember though, this portfolio report isn't just about how you have grown, it, it's also the areas in which you still have room for growth. Once you receive the feedback from your teacher on your summary, you can revise the draft to proofread your final copy. Then you can add it to the final draft of your entire report. Depending on which format you decide to use to present your portfolio, you'll need to talk to your teacher about the best way to submit it. Make sure you carefully consult the rubric for your assignment before submitting. Look at that. The end. Not quite the end. We're almost done. Key question 46. Final copy of report and portfolio. Out of 100 marks. But this is the culminating. Culminating is actually worth 30% of your final grade. So all of the key questions that you did up to this point were worth 70%. So you total them all up and you give them a mark out of 70. This culminating activity, which is worth 100 marks, or we use a fraction here to convert it to a mark out of 30. And then we add that 30% to the 70% from the key questions, and that will be your final mark. So, following that is the rubric on pages 41 and 42. I'm not going to read through this all again. Right? So we have the different categories, the learning categories from this course. These are called the overall outcomes. Knowledge and understanding. Right? There's three of them there. So in this rubric, you will demonstrate and understand. Whoops. You will demonstrate understanding of media terms and concepts studied in the course by naming specific terms and concepts and describing their significance and meaning. So if you understand them at a very high level and are able to use them fluently in your sentences, then you can get a good mark here. You'll get a red circle in that box. What else under knowledge and understanding? That you demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the characteristics of different text forms by accurately describing their features and characteristics. So by text forms, of course, we mean different forms of communication, right? So video, or a film, right? That's considered a text form. And different forms of media. So a PowerPoint presentation would be a text form. Written text is a text form. Um, so any type of form of communication is considered text, different text forms. Even radio, right? When you did the audio programming or the audio narrative essay, that's considered text as well. It's just a word to round up everything, all forms of media that you use for communication. You'll demonstrate understanding of text forms and formats written in the course by naming specific forms and formats, describing their features and characteristics. So we really focused on film uh, this year, this course, because well, I know a lot about film. I've dabbled in it for quite a while, so I enjoy talking about it. Then we have thinking and metacognitive skills. Very important in the future for applying what you learned here and using it in alternative contexts, right? These are use metacognitive skills to transfer your learning over. Use metacognitive skills related to listening and speaking by naming specific listening and speaking strategies, explaining which were most helpful in certain situations, and describing strengths and weaknesses within these skills. All right, so this is a way for you to analyze, right? And it highlights listening and speaking, right? So this is outside of our writing, right? We did touch on both listening and speaking to as much as a degree as we could, being an IL course and distant. Use metacognitive skills related to reading by naming specific reading strategies, explaining which were most helpful in certain situations, and describing strengths and weaknesses with those skills. So there's many different ways you can interpret text. Well, actually, there's the same fundamentally. We just use different terms to describe different types of text, right? So if we're talking about film, right, we talk about it in a different way than writing. But if we're talking about story, for instance, right, story, whether it be in a film or oral or written, um, they all have the basic same elements, right? And we did look at those in great depth and offered a lot of knowledge on those. And you were able to analyze different text. The novel that you read, you were able to analyze it in um, very deeply, looking at um, realism, types of characters, the reliability of the narrator. You know, um, and also, right, we always have strengths and weaknesses. But sometimes our strengths can help with our weaknesses. We can get our weaknesses to become stronger through our strengths. Then we have the communication section here. Express ideas and information. Use an appropriate development and logical organized structure. We looked at numerous different genres of writing. Business type of writing with doing memos, letters of complaint, and more academic type of writing, like reports and um, novel reviews, revised draft of a report to produce a finished copy, and we've spent lots of time on that revision and drafting. Um, and then the application. That's the final one where, right, make connections between skill strategies and knowledge learned in this course and the world outside of school by referring to specific examples in the course explaining how they are relevant and in the future. Okay, and then finally, we have the template for your portfolio. A report demonstrating my achievement of the curriculum expectations for grade 12 college level English, prepared by your name, right? Following it, ENG4C, school name, WASA Distance Education, prepared for, then that's my name there, WASA Distance Education, and then finally the date. And so hopefully this template will help you out organizing everything. There's the summary right there on page 44. Remember that comes after you do the other sections, including knowledge. And what's really nice about this template, it has everything in it that you need to address using the point proof comment strategy. Right? Don't forget to use that for all of these different points here. Stages of research, how to determine whether a website is liable or liable. How'd the law get involved in this? I'm starting to slip up, and not a moment too late. It's almost time to finish the class. Strategies for citing sources properly. How to do an advanced internet search. That's all under conducting research. And we did lots of research in this course, and research is so important in post secondary because the professors and teachers expect you to do most of your learning on your own. Now, they will give you lectures and they'll sit up there and ramble on for like an hour. You need to learn how to take notes as well. But they'll also expect you to look for 5 times the amount of information than they're giving you for your assignments. So research is so important. And then the basic structures you use to um, organize that research into uh, a cohesive research essay, for instance, or any other type of report. Um, so, yeah, then we have the theories of fear, which is a kind of, I like it's kind of fun to talk about fear and um, not fear itself, but the idea of why we are fearful and how horror, the genre of horror, uses these biological functions to um, get us to uh, get drawn into a story. So I won't read through all of these. And then we have thinking, of course, right? Um, with reading strategies and listening strategies, speaking skills, and writing strategies. So we've looked at all of these, and um, you were able to practice them all throughout the course, determine which ones seem to work better for you under certain circumstances. Then communication, the essay, graphic text. What is a good um, graphic text? How can we effectively visualize data so that the reader can connect whatever they see in the image with what you've written? Business letter, memo, report, and then application, of course. This is where you discuss ways in which you use the knowledge, skills, and strategies you develop in this class outside of your class, right? And look at that, page 47 of 48, and there's no more pages after that. Oh, that's funny. There's an invisible page that doesn't want to show up. No, honestly, this is it. All right, so that is ENG4C for another year. Once again, I want to remind you that if you're working on this course, um, contact me, send in whatever you can. And if you do have been saving up on your key questions and assignments, this is a good time to send them to me. Otherwise, sign up for term number 3, and you can continue on that way. And if you need help, the supplemental YouTube videos are always available. Just contact somebody at WASA here, and they will figure out a way how to get you the link. So that's it for this evening, everyone. Thank you so much for listening in this semester, listening in this year. I hope you enjoyed our classes, and we'll be back next year, next September, for the 2025-2026 school year. So have a great summer, everyone, and we will talk to you next fall. Bye for now.